The name.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the committee, and as usual the meeting is recorded. Health and safety for visitors here, front door, and there's one out the back door, and the playground is our site to meet. Shall we open with a karakia, and can you lead us off, Andrea?
Okay. Kei nui tātou. Kia hora te marinoa. Kia whakapapa ngā mu te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa. Ie, kai ie.
And I don't think we have any apologies. No conflicts of interest voted. Acknowledgements of tributes. Yes, Colin.
I just, at this particular meeting, I want to acknowledge the passing of Adrian Staples, Councillor Adrian Staples. Over the last couple of weeks, Adrian's commitment to South Wairarapa has been substantial, not only as our mayor a few years back, but also regional council representative across the Wairarapa. And in my view, she's done a sterling job. So I'd just like to acknowledge her passing.
All those in favour? Who's like to second it? Yep. Oh yeah. Right. Shall we move on to public participation? There isn't any. So urgent business. I don't believe we have any of that either. So shall we do confirmation of minutes of the last meeting? Are there any corrections? Nope. Can I have a mover for that? Simone and Collier. Is it carried? Aye. Okay. No matters arising from the previous meeting. So we'll go into 10.1. Investigations, options for the Economic Development Agency.
Oh, sorry, in the run sheet, we actually have the information reports first.
First, right. That was a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, right. Sweet. All right.
Just mention why.
Destination Wairarapa quarterly update. We're moving on to this report on 11.1. Ms. Nielsen, will you happily add to that?
You're going to move to 10.2, is it?
It's been moved, Colin, to later on.
11.1.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, fine. Sorry about that. No. Yeah.
Kia ora. I'm Anna from Distance Wairarapa. I think most of you are familiar with, we've met at some stage. I'm not sure whether I've met you. I'm here to talk about Destination Wairarapa. I will take the report as read for the last quarter. So what I'm going to do this morning is tell you a little bit about what's happening in the market at the moment. Then I'm going to talk to you about what Destination Wairarapa really are, what we do, why that's important. Firstly, tourism. So South Wairarapa will clearly understand that tourism is a key economic enabler for this particular part of the region, and it's growing, which is fantastic. As a region, Wairarapa-wide, we are struggling with domestic tourism in terms of numbers. We rely heavily on the Wellington market. They view us as their playground. And for at least the last probably 18 months to 2 years, Wellington has been suffering. It started with the loss of many jobs in that government sector. People were reluctant to hold on to let go of their money, and they're holding on to it. And then they progressed into cost of living crisis with high inflation, exchange rates, all sorts of things which were impacting most heavily into the Wellington market, more so probably than any of the other centres. That hasn't really changed too much. We've all seen the issues with infrastructure in Wellington, and I think it's created even more of a concern for what the future might look like. The pleasing thing is we as a region remain relevant to the Wellington market, and they still continue to come over the hill. However, they're not staying necessarily. Instead of buying a bottle of wine over lunch, they'll buy a glass. They're not coming as regularly. So it's really important we remain relevant to that market by offering up all sorts of different things and different reasons for them to come over the hill and continue to consider us as their playground. Other markets, for example, Manawatu, that is an untapped market for us. And we need to do more work in that area, particularly with the new motorway that's going between Manawatu and Hawke's Bay. And it always distresses me when I come out of Wellington and there's the big sign above you that says it's faster to get to Hawke's Bay going State Highway 1 than it is to State Highway 2. That is a real risk to us. Kapiti Coast is also organising itself in the area of tourism. Again, another risk for us. It will become more appealing for them to go up State Highway 1, stop in Kapiti and continue on to Hawke's Bay, and it flows back the other way as well. We're in danger of being left out in a corner if we don't continue to remain relevant and continue to promote ourselves as a desirable destination. Interesting enough, when you drill down into the numbers, South Wairarapa from a domestic tourism hasn't been affected quite so much, which is really pleasing. Certainly the growth has softened compared to this time last year, but it's not as large as what Masterson has experienced. When we get to international, that is our exciting opportunity. It's growing, it's going to continue to grow, and that's where I think we want to put our sights on, for two reasons. One, there is so much opportunity, and what we have to offer in this part of the world is what international markets want to see and do. But also from a resilience perspective, we need to sort of not rely so heavily on the Wellington market, because it makes us incredibly vulnerable for situations that we find ourselves in. So we do need to grow that international market space. And the great thing about international tourists is they stay longer and they spend more. So that's kind of a little snapshot of where we are in the market. It is challenging. It is highly competitive. Everyone wants the dollar. Everyone wants the international dollar. And that's not going to change anytime soon. Destination Wairarapa, we are a very small organisation. As you know, you fund us, and we're incredibly grateful for that. We do understand as an organisation the challenges that you as council are going through in terms of rates capping, reform, water. There is so much happening in the local government space. We feel the effects of it, and I empathise with what you are all going through at the moment. The Destination Wairarapa, there's myself. I'm the CE, but I do a lot of other work as well. I drive the sector. I'm the advocate for our region. I fly the flag as high as I possibly can, and then I've got two marketing staff, a marketing manager and a digital manager. We also run the Martinborough site here. Small but perfectly formed team, and in terms of people, they're incredibly dedicated to this region, and making sure that people are aware of all the gems, the hidden gems that we have in this part of the world. And you know, they're really incredible. They have been with me since pre-COVID, and we, as you all know, we've been through some highs and some lows over that time, and the staff that I have are very resilient, and they keep coming back for more. Why? Same for me. When you look out the door and see what we have on offer, it's a glorious job to be in. The hard thing is funding it, and I understand. So Destination Wairarapa, that's who we are. As an organisation, our role, we're a regional tourism organisation, is 31 throughout New Zealand. They're all funded quite differently. Some or most have council input. Some are set up in such a way that they've got a trust and they might have other assets they can draw on. Some have membership like we do. We have membership as well. We have 220 members throughout the region who pay a small fee to be involved in Destination Wairarapa. But all of those RTOs face the same challenges. The important thing of the job that we do is we promote tourism at place. So we promote the people in the place, which is ultimately what the visitors are coming to see. They get hooked up in what Tourism New Zealand does on an international level. You're in the tube station in London, there's a beautiful picture of New Zealand, and that's the dream part. That's where you go, oh, I want to go to New Zealand one day. But ultimately, when you get here, it's the people in the place that you go to and the people that you meet and the experiences that you have that are memorable when you go home. And that's what reputation comes from, and that's what satisfaction comes from. So we're a really important cog in the world, not just international tourism, but domestic tourism as well. Our job is to promote the region, and that's all the free stuff. So all the stuff that we take for granted, the Tararua out to the coast, the lush fields and in between, it's the non-commercial stuff that no one else is going to promote and talk about. We talk about Wairarapa as the whole. We don't talk about South Wairarapa, Carterton or Masterton, because people come to the region. They don't come to a particular council definition. So that is our job. And from a member's perspective, we elevate their own marketing. We can't do the marketing for them. There's only 3 of us in the team, but what they do, we elevate that and make sure that it's pushed out to the chat through the channels that we have created through digital or through relationships or whatever, or partnerships as well. So that's the key thing. What we do, you won't see. And if you see it, we've done a little bit something wrong, because we have very limited funding. And what we need to do is make sure it's targeted at the right pace, at the right time for the right people. So we are very laser focused on doing that. Occasionally we will, to make sure that people know what we're up to, but ultimately most of our effort will not land here, because you already live here and you already know what we have in front of us. So that is ultimately our job. The other part of it is we're the only organisation who's got tourism focused. We are the only organisation in this region who has got eyes on what's happening in the tourism world. And it is an incredibly important sector for the Wairarapa and for South Wairarapa in particular. So when it comes to anything to do with tourism, whether it's transport, whether it's State Highway 2, whether it's the environment, whatever it may be, then Destination Wairarapa also has a part to play, certainly not in leading those conversations, but being advocates for the region and for the sector in general. A lot of that you guys won't see, and so some of these reports, it's hard to get across everything that we do, and these reports go to all 3 of the councils, so it represents a regional snapshot. We don't do them specifically for one council to the next. So that's the market, that's who we are, that's what we do. And why is that important? Well, it's important because of why you're sitting here. It's all about economic development. And economic development and economic outcomes is sometimes a challenging thing to get your head around. But ultimately, it's inward investment into a region. It's new money. And new money flows back through wages and salaries to the people who live here, and it makes our life richer. We're able to have more money in the Wairarapa pot, if you can imagine, as a big pot. And as people come over the hill and they come in here and they stay and they spend their money, that's new money coming from a different economy into ours. That's, as my 14-year-old son so eloquently put it when I was trying to explain what I do, he ultimately said, so Mum, what you do helps the councils pay for what they do. And that is correct. And I'll give you a really good example of that. Margraine Vineyard, they came over here many, many years ago to see Toast Martinborough, an event here. And they loved it so much, they ended up buying Margraine, settling here. They now have a business here. They've raised their family here and they employ people here and they pay rates here. That is one example. I often use the very extreme example of Bill Foley. Bill Foley came to Wairarapa to visit his other billionaire friend, and he loved the region so much. When said billionaire friend decided to sell his property, he said, "I'll buy it from you." And then he proceeded to buy Tikuringa, Martinborough Vineyards, also Lighthouse Gin, and then Toast Martinborough the event. And the amount of money he has put into this region because he loved it is because he came here as a visitor in the first place. Tourism is not just about attracting visitors and all the nice things that go with it. It goes much deeper into the economy and has a much greater influence. It is the other arm of investment. The attraction part and the investment part is the other arm of tourism. Can I take any questions or comments?
Councillor Holmes.
Oh, I've got 2 or 3 actually. Thanks, Anna. Much appreciated. Great sort of overview of what Destination do for us here in the Wairarapa. I'm just looking at some interesting spends. Masterton seems to tip the balance by quite a considerable amount of money. Is that their attraction to events up there, or is it?
It's retail.
So that's retail. Okay. So that leads me to my next question. In terms of Australian versus New Zealand dollar at the moment, we're probably at an all-time low in terms of the value of our dollar against the Australian. Are we promoting that in a way where it's appealing for Australians to come to New Zealand and make life a little bit, or the holiday a little cheaper?
Yep. 100%. So we're a small organisation. We can't fund international marketing ourselves.
Yeah.
So we work in partnership of the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail. Classic New Zealand Wine Trails, Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, Wellington and Marlborough. It's been around for 20 years. So there's little grapes with signs.
Yep.
So we work in conjunction with our partners in the other regions to enter into a market to sell them a concept that takes them off State Highway 1, but also pulls them into the North Island, because for an international perspective, most of them, a lot of them fly Auckland and then they'll go down to Christchurch, Queenstown and out again. We want them to stay in the North Island, and we use wine as the hook, but it's not just wine, it's wine, food and intimate experiences. And we can offer that on the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail. We can offer an itinerary that will be 7 to 10 days, or it could be just a quick overnight weekend. The Minister of Tourism recently acknowledged the opportunity there, particularly in Australia, and gave us as a group almost $1 million in order to promote direct consumer. Now that's normally Tourism New Zealand's job, but the Tourism Minister liked our proposal so much that she said, you can have that money and go forth and do what you need to do. And we are reaping the benefits from
That's
it.
fantastic. Yeah.
Just early indication, over $100,000 worth of wine has been exported because of this particular program from the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail back to Australia. And I've just seen the figures from March, and we've had a 46.1% increase in international tourists in this month, in March alone, compared to the year before. And those are all Australian.
That's great. Yeah. I just have one final one you can answer very quickly. Destination Wairarapa and Business Wairarapa, you still have a very good working relationship with those 2 groups. So yeah,
It's the same with WEDS.
yeah.
You know, the important thing is we're on the ground operationally. We do the doing. I think where the disjoint comes from is that there are 3 governance levels that sit above us, and the funding comes in, and the MOUs are all different, and they're set not together. So they're not lined up at trying to achieve the same things. And I think that's sometimes the issue. At an operational level, great people doing great things for this region.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne.
Anna, I'll 2 questions from me. I've got the Taranaki and Manawatu. I mean, they've both got international and domestic going really well for them. Is this big ticket tractors, or what?
I know. They, interestingly enough, with Manawatu, they have got a couple of new hotels who have just that's building around the square, but they've also actually entered into the tourism market. They kind of dabbled around the outsides, and they've got themselves a great new identity, the whole Manawatu brand. If you haven't seen that, it's very strong and very effective. And behind that, there's a lot of imagery and key messaging. And it's really about they've taken a really firm focus on what the benefits of tourism can bring to that region, and they're reaping the benefits from it. Taranaki is an interesting one. Taranaki is, they draw out of their market from both Wellington and Auckland. So they're not as susceptible to the Wellington issues, economy issues. So they get Auckland as well. And again, they've got a lot of great events happening on. It's just a real conscious effort to really put money behind tourism and really start pushing it. And that's when I said before, it is highly competitive. You know, lots of regions are going, actually, tourism is something that we can do and we should do. And they're putting a lot of money into really leveraging it. That's why we have to continue to make sure that we're still visible and still relevant.
Thanks for your report. You seem like to be a really high performing agile team with what you've achieved with the amount of funds that you get. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I note that you had to close down Marsden eyesight, and so we only have the Martinborough eyesight open.
Yes.
And I was just wondering around what's the rationale for having it kind of out here in Martinborough instead of more centrally on State Highway 2, say Greytown even?
Do you know, it's interesting. I've not actually questioned that myself. It's just always been here. And I think it probably goes back to the days when tourism first kicked off in the Wairarapa, it was really just Martinborough, and it was the wine region that started tourism for all of this region. And so that's where the information centre was. And it's kind of just grown from there, and the town has grown, but the likes of Greytown back in those days certainly didn't look like what it does now.
Come on.
Yeah, I was just wondering if a little bit more analysis maybe
Yes.
could be
The original plan for the Masterton eyesight was when Masterton was going to build their new civic centre. We were going to be moved into there and have quite a bit more footprint. And therefore we would have been smack bang on State Highway 2. It'd be a great lead into, or as you're going out of the region, but Marsden District Council didn't see the value in that, and so they changed tact.
Yeah. Also around, not continuing the work and business events, what do you see the kind of, because you mentioned that there was, good work kind of coming. So what are we losing?
And look, business events is really challenging. So you've got a massive conference area with Tākina now on board in Wellington. And that's huge. We can't compete with that sort of size or professionalism. And they have a whole team dedicated to hunting for business. And when I use the word hunt, I mean these people are salespeople with targets like you wouldn't believe. And it requires a real conscious effort to develop a market like that. We don't have, we were dabbling in what's called pre and post conferences. So it would be like the breakouts. You'd have a smaller group would come over to Wairarapa and they will do a separate session that might be just the board members or whatever it is. But in order to be in that space and working within those people who make those sorts of decisions, you have to be active and spending some money to get some attention. And it was really an opportunity cost situation. And internationally, we had stronger partnerships and better opportunity. With such a small team and limited funding, that just meant that with the business events, it was too hard to maintain both markets. So that's what we've chosen to focus on.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, this last question, I've got a while. Oh, sorry, we're running short of time. But
Just very brief comments. Just going through all the economic applications that we had for the grants earlier this year. There's just amazing number of fresh ideas.
Yes.
In agritourism, pet tourism,
Yes.
the astro stuff, just cute,
Yeah.
really rich field of ideas.
Well, the nice thing is a little comment that I had. What I like about the Wairarapa when it comes to food and beverage is it's small, high margin. It's often the people who are creating or delivering something. It's them themselves who are doing it. It's not a large corporate. So what you get is the real passion and real connection with the people in the place from those lovely little events or those small boutique producers and suppliers. I just want to say one last thing. Food and beverage. So Tourism New Zealand have got, we're leading into their next sort of promotional round activity, food and beverage and health and wellness. They're three promotional things. Food and beverage, I am flying the Wairarapa flag to be part of their campaign, to be anything. You know, that's the thing. You've got to be in there developing those relationships, and I'm hopeful that in the near future there'll be an international tourism campaign that's actually got Wairarapa in it.
A wild quick.
Quickly, thanks, Anna. Update on the brand, the Wairarapa brand project.
Yes, so we call it shared identity, and it's from looking at the Manawatu example. It's really important to have strong identity that people recognise. And I think all of you around this table, at some point you've said to people, or someone's asked you, where do you live? And that you say Wairarapa, and they say where? Or Waipara, or I live in Martha, what Maunga? People do not know where we are, what we stand for, and what goes on in this region. And it's not about creating a brand, it's about creating a strong identity that people have confidence in from an economic point of view, but also on a lifestyle point of view. And we're just on the early stages of drafting up a project brief to do that. It'll take 2 or 3 years and it will require a fair amount of investment, but we'll do it in a staged approach. And why are we doing it? Destination Wairarapa, we're the only organisation who probably can, because we're a marketing organisation that covers the whole of the Wairarapa.
Great news. That's excellent. Thank
Thank you, Anna. Do I have a mover to receive the report and note the information in the report? Andrea McMahon and Colin Roberts. All right.
Excellent. Thanks, Adam. Much appreciated.
All right, we're now moving to 11.2, Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Quarterly Report. Please, forth. Welcome.
Morning.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having us. I am Matt Correa from Wellington NZ, lead our regional economic development team, and this is Tesh Kidd, who is the program manager for the delivery of the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy work program. It's a bit long, but the easiest way to get it. So just a minute of background from me, and then I'll hand over to Tesh to talk more specifically to the delivery of the program. And happy to take questions. Wellington NZ is the economic development agency for the Greater Wellington region, so from Otaki, north of Masterton, all the way down to Wellington. We deliver a number of activities across the entire region. Most of it is guided by the Regional Economic Development Plan, which has 4 focus sectors: STEM, which includes manufacturing, food and fiber, tourism, and screens, which includes film. All of these sectors are relevant to Wairarapa directly. Manufacturing is the largest employer. Food and fiber is obviously a major contributor to GDP. Tourism, as of course we've just heard. We are also the tourism organization for Wellington City, and this is funded specifically by Wellington City Council. We've been working with the 3 Wairarapa councils directly for several years, and that's the delivery of the work program for the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy. We've got 3 focused areas under that, and a number of initiatives. And I will let Dash go for some highlights from the latest week.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, apologies from Anna, who is also based over here with me. She is currently meeting the secondary school principals in Masterton about the workforce and skills work that she's doing. Otherwise, she would have been here to see you all. take the quarterly reports as read, both the Wellington NZ and the WEDS one. I guess a couple of updates just to add. The dark sky capability workshops is something that Anna and I have been working on. We had the first session last week. We've got the second workshop next week and then in 2 weeks' time. And there was a lot of excitement in the room there from those attending, so that's great to see. In terms of screen, hopefully you would have seen our previous quarterly report around the economic data that came from screening, from filming in the region. So that equated to about $60,000 per day for the week that they were here. And you'll start to see some public communications around that film next month. It's going to be launched at Field Days in the Waikato. And then the premiere will be later this year. And we've also just submitted the Wainawa Water Demand Assessment, which I know Janice and Stefan were at the workshop earlier this year, so that's gone through to Carterton District Council. I know Stefan had asked us here today to talk about how do we measure success and how do we know that we're being successful with across the 12 different projects that we're working on this year. And I guess that is done through 3 different ways. So the deliverables in our contracts, either they're externally or we set KPIs for ourselves on what we're delivering. Then we look at the kind of longer term things, and that's around behavioural change and then system impact. So I'll talk you through a couple of examples to give that a bit of context. So in our food and fibre work stream, a good example is the Seeds and Grains project that we've supported this year. So we contributed some funding to that project to enable them to complete their application to central government. That was, of course, alongside quite a bit of co-funding from the Foundation for Arable Research and, of course, local growers putting in time and money to make that happen. So that has, well, hopefully will unlock some central government funding to the tune of about $3 million. So being able to leverage funding there. From that project, hopefully if it's successful, we will see some more growers in the region, and so that behavioural change where we're moving to higher value land use. And from there, the system impact is making sure that we're bringing more value into the region. They don't have to take their raw product down to Canterbury or north of us to have that processed into final products or those medium products. Moving through to workforce and skills. So one example is the Industry Big Day Out. So that's focused on exposing our secondary school students to local businesses here in Wairarapa. There was one event that was run last year, and it had 50 students and 10 that visited 10 businesses across the day. So the behavioural change there is that we see our secondary school students and staff having more awareness of the local businesses and the pathways that are here for our young people. The system impact that, of course, we'll see in a few years, hopefully, is that we're retaining more young people here in the region, living and working locally. Moving on to water, our other priority area. As you might be aware, we funded the Case for Action report. So that was building on years and years and years of all this fantastic work around water resilience. A piece of work that had never been done was, I guess, that economic and social size of the prize. What does water resilience solutions, plural, mean or could potentially mean for our region? As hopefully you may have seen the report, by 2050 we could expect an extra $1.5 billion in our economy and an extra 3,800 people in our workforce. That report was done to influence behaviour change, so bringing the general public and Wairarapa along the journey, understanding what the potential is for Wairarapa. And then the system impact, again, down the future, starting to see some of those solutions. We've got a more resilient economy and place that we live. Open for questions?
Councillor Old?
Yes.
It's off the block.
Yeah, I must admit, water resilience is one of the things that obviously the Wairarapa as a whole, all three councils have looked at seriously over a number of years, a large number of years, and it doesn't appear that we've got a lot of traction. Certainly the economic benefits are there, and they're in black and white from the research that you've done. So I'm wondering next steps in terms of actually getting something productive underway, and I guess that's over to that Water Resilience Committee to do just that, and maybe it's a question for our representatives on that committee. Who are they? Right.
The committee is on hold. And
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
It's on hold, and the lead person's contract, I understand, is expiring in June and not to be renewed. So there's a bit of a vacuum there in terms of the means.
oh. Well, I think this is news.
Needs to come back to council table and a sort of a discussion on that issue.
Yeah, I mean, this work's been done, the research has been done, we know what the impacts and then economic developments are, and yet we've chosen to put something like this. Not us, no, I'm not saying us. Me, a friend, no. Send perhaps a paper to this to council at some stage.
Have a chat about it.
Okay. Right, we need to have a chat about it. Thanks for that, dear. Appreciate it. Good report, by the way, I must admit, dear. Thank you.
I have a quick question. With the establishment of the local community managed strategic connector role, what is that?
Yes, so that's delivered under our skills and workforce development area. That was a local group that got together and realised that we, and you may well know, living here in the Wairarapa, we don't have a lot of GPs. We have a lot of nurses. A big majority of our population aren't enrolled in medical centres. So they took it upon themselves, instead of waiting for help coming from over the hill or anywhere else, what can we do here? So they went out and looked at a project that's actually based in Australia and Canada, and they are, it's essentially a concierge service where they work with medical, healthcare organisations across the region and go out and help find people in various roles, settle them in, like connecting them outside of the work side of things. So it's that whole of person, so making sure their children have places to go to school, they've got hobbies and that kind of thing, and yeah, connecting them in with the community to keep them here for more than the average 2 years. We had the Australian project team come over and they spent a week here in the Wairarapa, and we had various different workshops back in 2024. Their report highlighted that actually before we start attracting more people into our region, we needed to better connect our people and our healthcare workplaces to what was available here. So instead of, I recently sprained my ankle playing hockey, instead of me going to the GP, I instead went to a podiatrist who could give me exactly the same cover, ACC and everything. So it's decreasing that pressure on our GP and medical systems in order to make sure that wait times are less and what have you. So yeah, better connecting community healthcare. We also see GPs send patients over the hill for skincare surgery instead of sending them up to the skincare clinic here in, or up in Lansdowne. So yeah.
Yeah, so they connect. So is this a business or is this a like?
It's a local trust of just people who thought, bugger this, we're going to do something ourselves. So yeah, all about supporting, yeah, and running some workshops to create better work cultures as well. If we're going to be bringing people in, want to make sure they're supported.
That's original.
It was a kind of a whole of community approach, and the representatives from the professions and interested in yeah, retaining, good workforce, and from a combined effort across Wairarapa, we've been able to attract more GPs, less are unenrolled. So we've seen benefits from this kind of approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great.
Thanks for the question. Just to report, just in the capability boost territory, I heard it raised with me by some consultants that they've lost some clients in the process because some of their clients have been pulled into that scheme. I'm just wondering how that whole process worked to select the people that are consulting with the farmers, et cetera, that are involved in that program.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Capability Boost program under Food and Fibre was co-designed with our industry bodies here locally. So Beef and Lamb, Port NZ and Dairying NZ. We had some agri-bankers and MPI involved in what does that look like. Initially, we were going to run workshops to help support businesses to grow, develop and whatever they might want to do. After talking to those various industry bodies, we've worked out that actually the gap is in that one-on-one support. And we sought recommendations from those that we had co-designed this program with and landed on the selected consultant that we've gone with to undertake basically a 360 review of the businesses to identify what's happening across all of that business. Part of the onboarding of the businesses that we've taken on is we asked who were they currently working with to make sure that we didn't go out and say, hey, you need to work in ABC, here's a consultant. We wanted to respect and maintain those existing relationships and being clear with everybody. So it is a shame to hear that has happened because it was never the intention of that.
I've got another question for you. You're at the third quarter of your budget, but you've only spent 38% of your budget. Is there action for the rest of the year, or?
I guess that was a reflection of how our work program was progressing this year. So, and particularly in the food and fibre area, we've spent a lot of time co-designing capability and making sure that what we're going to do is deliberate and going to be meaningful for those that are participating and have impact. So it's taken some time, but we are, since writing this report, we've started to press play on a lot more, and you'll continue to see, you'll see that in the next report. So yeah. Did you want to add anything to that?
Excellent.
Any further questions? All right, thank you very much. Shall we
Thank you.
move to receive the report and take the information contained? I have a Watson and Councillor Isaacs. Investigating options for the Economic Development Agency. Stefan or
It's one, is it 10.1?
So 10.1.
Yeah, 10.1, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. And good morning, everyone. The essentially this paper is a fairly simple proposition for you. The decision for you is to endorse CEs to agree the scope of a piece of analysis on potential models for a economic development agency. So it's important that this work is done and done well and done fairly promptly. But all three councils need to agree on what the options are that are going to be brought forward for decision. So obviously you will want to know what potential models might be available, what level of service might be achievable through those models, optionality, and then of course the cost of delivering through those models. A piece of work that's really well done and will help you make those decisions. And this paper asks you to endorse CEs to go ahead and scope out that work, understand the cost of it, perhaps look at who will be assigned to do it, and then come back to you for a decision on that.
That be outsourced?
Yes, it will be. It'll be,
That's why it's coming to us.
it's a good point, councillor. The capacity and capabilities to do this kind of work fast and do it well within busy councils is not there at the moment. So it would be a consultant that was taken on to do this.
Thanks, Stefan. Any questions? Okay.
I was thinking that, you know.
Can I was cut off at the pass.
Right, so we're now entering our public excluded.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much all
Thanks,
for
Jane.
coming.
Thanks for coming in.
Yes. All right,
Right, so we are now going into the public excluded. It's just to record the confirm the minutes of the last meeting, excluded meeting.
So we just need to move in a second.
Have a mover,
I'm happy to move.
Colin, and Simone. Right.
All in favour?
All happy with the notes? Bring the notes, confirm, yes.